So far with our website, we have a kind of general structure with a few sections on the homepage. The last component we need to introduce for the homepage is this top navigation bar, this menu up here. And these little icons are going to end up being links we can click to route to other pages on our website. So to develop this, which we will do over the next few videos, we are going to follow along with a tutorial on this website, W3 Schools. I will follow along with this navigation bar tutorial and this horizontal navigation bar. I'll post this in the description in case you want to follow along with it. It's not verbatim, and there are extra things that happen in these sites. So if you want to explore the top navigation further, you can kind of do so by looking around on these sites. But I will loosely follow along with their ideas presented. So let's get started. We're going to change this menu here. I'm going to go to my home page, scroll to the top. We are working in the menu right now. So not the intro, not the outer box, but this menu section. I'm going to delete that text and push this down. One way we can make a top navigation bar is by using an unordered list. It might not seem like we should be using that, but we can use some CSS to change it to make it fit well. So let's make an unordered list. And we're going to put a few list items in here. But these list items, they need to link to another part of our website. To link things, we need an anchor tag, which is the A tag. Click tab. So we're going to link to other parts of our websites eventually. We don't have those pages, so I'm going to leave the href blank for now. And what this li here is going to be is one tab on the top navigation bar. So in our example, it'll be one of these tabs. Now I'm going to do 4 of them. I'll do my coffee shop name, an about, a menu, and a contact us. I think I'm going to skip staff. Do as many as you'd like. You'll need an li for each tab that you want. So I have 4 of them. I'm going to copy and paste this 4 times. Now there are 2 elements or 2 tags involved here. We have an li and a anchor tag. So you can see here the anchor tag, the link is inside the list element. When you write the text for each of your tabs, the shop name, about, etc., we're just going to put it inside the link. So inside here is where I'll write Uptown Coffee. And for the next ones, I'll do about, menu, and contact us. Notice again, I'm putting them inside the anchor tag. It's not going right here. This is after the anchor tag. If I wrote it here, that would be after. Same right here. We want the text to be a link, so it needs to be in that A tag. So I'm showing you this way just so you understand. You are inside the anchor. You are inside the anchor, not after the anchor, not here. With that in mind, I'm going to close this down. Just delete some of that spacing, just so we don't need to make it really large. And again, I'm just doing this so that we don't have like a huge menu. We're just going to put a few text in here, so I'll keep the anchor tag nested kind of concisely inside the list item. Oops. Okay. Let's see how that looks. Bring in my website here, give it a little refresh. Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. So it's doing the list. We literally have a list up here. Not what we want, but it has each individual tab. You can click on them. They're not going to do anything because we're not telling it to go anywhere. Before we go much further here, I do want us to notice that by default, this is put in the center. We told this list down here to do that. We said, hey, move to the center. But this list is going to act differently. We don't want it to necessarily go in the center. So we need to separate the CSS. We need to make sure that this CSS down here is not applying to the CSS up here. To do this, we can make our current unordered list CSS more specific. Let me show you how to do that. In our homepage.css, way at the bottom here, we have this unordered list CSS information. This is going to apply to every list. but we don't want it to apply to every list. We don't want it to happen to this one up here. We just want to apply it down here. So if we want to do that, we want to limit the scope of the CSS, we can make the selector here more specific. Let's look at our home page. The list we were looking at occurred not in the locations, but in the hours here. It's this section right here. So we want to apply the CSS just to this part. One way we can do that is reference a section that it's in. This is in the hours ID, or the hours section. So we could say apply the CSS only to a unordered list that is inside the hours section. To do this, we're going to reference the ID of hours over here, and we'll start with it. So we'll do hashtag hours. So the way this is read is apply these CSS properties only to something that is inside something with an hours ID and then is a unordered list. So here we are starting with the ID of hours, and the unordered list is inside it because it is nested one level. By doing this, we're only going to apply the CSS that meets these two properties. Not only are unordered lists, but you're also inside the ID of hours. So when I go back here to my website and run it, this is still the same, but up here we notice that the bullet points are wrong like they used to be. They are kind of thrown over here to the left, which is good. It means that this CSS is now not being applied to our nav bar. Okay, so what's next? Now we got to start making this look a little bit better, a little bit more interesting. There's going to be quite a bit of CSS involved here, and our CSS file for the homepage is getting kind of large. I'm going to make a new CSS file. I'm going to do it in the Uptown Coffee, new file, and let's call this navbar.css. I'm going to borrow some of the CSS from the homepage. I'm going to keep the colors. So I'm going to copy that over because we're still going to want those colors being referenced. I can close it down if I don't want to look at it. Okay, so now that we have that set up, let's look at some just general steps we can do towards making our nav bar. Before that, actually, I forgot. I need to link the nav bar CSS. There's no reference to this. So I'm going to copy this. The nav bar occurs, the menu here occurs before all my other stuff, so I'm going to start by doing the nav bar first. So a nav bar is being linked, and then the homepage CSS is being linked. Okay, let's go back here. Let us start to make some CSS. I have an unordered list, but I probably don't want the CSS that I'm applying to this nav bar to apply to all unordered lists. So I'm going to use that method we saw earlier. My ID is called menu. So I'm going to say the unordered list in the menu. Hashtag menu for the outer section, and then unordered list. Okay. Let's go through a few properties. The first one we're going to do is list style and then type. So this is the type of icon we're going to see. So over here we have these bullet points. Well, we don't want bullet points for our menu. So what we're going to write here is just none. This is going to remove those bullet points. Now they're gone because the style we've said is, hey, don't use bullet points, use nothing. And if you don't see this working, again, check to make sure you've linked your navbar CSS. That's probably the main cause if you don't see this happening. Okay, so we've removed the buttons there. Now we got a few more things. Let's do a background color. I'm going to use my previous colors. I'll do gunmetal for the background. And we're going to cut out a few things. We're going to cut out a margin. We're just going to set that to 0. And we're going to cut out the padding. Also going to set that to 0. Let's see how that looks so far. Okay. maybe not the best just yet, but we have kind of this bar section here. So we are starting to see that the background color is going there. Now we do see this little gap here, this little section. I think that's coming from the body. If we go to the homepage.css and the body, I think the padding, if we set it to 0, we'll get rid of that. Let's check. Maybe not that. I think the property not padding is margin we want. Let's see if that works. Okay, that's better. So if you were noticing like a little bit of a gap there, just putting a margin of 0 in the body in the homepage CSS will eliminate that. Okay. So far, okay with this. Now we need to start to move these things around a little bit. To do that, we're going to reference a few of the properties inside the menu. We have an unordered list and a list item. So we're going to start to change these around a little bit. We have the syntax, the menu, the unordered lists. Now we're going to start making some changes to the list items themselves. Menu li. So this says inside the ID menu, any of your li elements, we will change those. The first thing we're going to do is a new property called float, and we're going to do float right. Float is going to push things to the right side or the left side. If you now run it, maybe I'll put this over here. If you run this now, you'll see it's kind of pushed over to this side here. It's not looking too good, but we'll fix that in a second. So with this push to the right, up here in the menu under lists, we're going to add a property called overflow hidden. It's going to pop up right away. When you save this and run it, it's going to start to look a little bit nicer. At least like we'll see it pushed over here in this space. The overflow hidden, basically, if you have excess stuff, it's just going to hide it. It's going to put it away. Okay, what else could we add here? We might want to add some padding to make this spacing a little bit better. I'm going to do padding. I'm going to introduce an idea here where first we do the padding above and below, and then the padding to the left and the right. I'm going to do padding of 30 pixels above and below, and then 50 pixels to the left and the right. And let's save that. Okay, maybe that was a little bit too much padding. Let's decrease that a little bit. Maybe 20 and 40. Okay. Still not feeling that. Let's do 10 and 20. Okay. You can kind of play around with this a little bit. Maybe a little bit better. Bigger. 15, 25. Okay. Again, we can play around with that a little bit in a future one. Okay, so we got these. It's looking okay, but maybe we want to change the color of these links as well. Like they're not looking too good right now. So we have the list item, the things inside our list, and then the links themselves are A tags. So in our CSS here, we can do hashtag menu, things in our menu, and the list item and the anchor tag inside them. So the link inside the list item. Let's add a background color and a color to them. So I'll do background color. I'm going to do, I think in my notes I did burnt sienna for this one. And then I'm going to add a text color as well. This one I think I just did the gunmetal again. So now I'm giving the links themselves some color. Let's see if that helps. Okay. I'm noticing here that the links, like we're getting just coloring around these spacing here. So maybe it's better instead of putting the padding in the list item, let's pad out the links themselves. That way this orange color will look a little nicer. So I'm going to replace this in the link itself. Okay, so we're getting somewhere with that. We still have a little bit of spacing issue, but we should be able to fix that. I think we're not seeing any padding up top is because the link itself has a different type of display. We haven't talked about display too much, but for our sake right now, just understand the padding isn't happening until we do a display of block. We'll talk about displays in a future lesson, but for now, just understand that this basically allows our link to have a bit of padding. And so now we have like somewhat of a construction of our nav bar. We have these parts here with different coloring, and it's kind of starting to take form. So hopefully that wasn't too terrible in terms of the CSS. We've seen most of these, except for like overflow hidden and the list type, but we now have our general shape. In the next few videos, we'll kind of fine tune this a little bit. We will move some of these around.